Hello, welcome to the Portland Film Fest. We'd like to thank you for supporting the Portland Film Fest and independent film in the US and all over the world. We'd first like to thank Comcast for their tremendous support and their commitment to independent filmmakers, their fourth year in supporting the Portland Film Fest. Their ongoing support ensures that diverse voices from all over the world are given a platform to share their unique perspectives and stories. We'd also like to thank the Corner Camera, Portland Mortgage, and Oregon Film. Find out more about these sponsors and buy tickets online at pdxff.com. Again, welcome to the Portland Film Fest. Welcome to this Q&A with the cast and crew of the Zimbabwean film Shaina. My name is Gesha-Marie Bland. I am a screenwriter based in New York. I also volunteered for the fest. I've been a screener for the fest, and I'm now happy to host this Q&A with the cast and crew of Shaina. So let's get started. Let me introduce the director of the film Shaina, Beautie Masvaure Alt. If I've mispronounced it, I'm so sorry, she'll correct me. With the producer of the film, Siphiwe, I will let him say his last name, his surname. And we have the the star of the film, Shaina herself, Wilmah Munemera. Welcome to the Portland Film Fest. Q&A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, shall I correct the pronunciations right
Please.
from the get-go?
Please.
So it's Beautie Masvaure Alt, who is the director.
Masvaure Alt.
What did I say? I said Masvaure Alt.
You said it's a tough one for most people.
Did I say Masvaure? Okay, so it's Masvaure Alt, and there's Siphiwe Hlabangane, who's also the producer, and Wilmah Munemera, who's the lead actress in the film.
Okay, yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure, Gesha.
Great. So, I'd like you to briefly introduce yourselves. I'll start with Beauty.
Hi, my name is Beautie Masvaure Alt. I am the director of the movie Shaina.
And Wilmah.
Hi, my name is Wilmah Munemera, and I play the lead actress, Shaina.
Okay, now we know who's next.
Hi, my name is Siphiwe Hlabangane, and I am the producer of the film Shaina. Excellent.
Thank you so much, and welcome again to the Q&A. So we are discussing the film Shaina, and it's a lovely, very touching story about girls struggling, several issues coming of age, and it's very touching, and it also is very timely in the sense that it's about girl power in a sense, but it's about girls struggling to make a living economically, to fend off various sorts of sexual assault, and have a community and to bond with other women. So this is very at the moment. Thank you, Beauty, for this lovely and inspiring film. It will touch many people, I'm sure. For festival goers, please note that Shaina is one of the 6 films out of 30 chosen to be in competition. And we would love your support in voting for this film if you feel that it is deserving of a further award. So let's jump in and start the Q&A. So Beauty, can I ask you, what was your process and inspiration for writing and directing this film?
I didn't write it. Another woman called Wanisai Chigwendere wrote the film. I directed the film. My inspiration for the film really was, I've said this many times, it's a lot to do with being able to relate to the story, and I related to the story in many ways. All the themes in the film, resilience, hard work, creativity, young girls working with women to achieve big things. I think all of that, inspired me to make the film.
Excellent. And also, there is, to some degree, there's a social issue. There's a message to this film, and you're touching on several issues. And you're also sort of creating awareness about sexual assault, about STIs, AIDS, et cetera, how did you approach balancing the need to tell a story in a creative way, but also get out this messaging around these issues?
I think, you know, there's nothing, I think it's always, you know, it makes it simpler to be creative when you've seen it. And I think I was very fortunate to have gone through a lot of the issues, to have, you know, lived in some of the neighborhoods, you know, similar to the neighborhood where Shaina and her friends lived. So I think a lot of it was really because I could relate to it. So everything else just sort of fell into place. You know, I had to sort of think back to when I was younger, or, you know, when some relatives also went through sexual assault, or, you know, or when my grandmother died, you know, so it's all, you know, taking my mind back to that time and try to, you know, make sense of it in this story. So I think the way that I processed the whole thing, and the way I became creative with the story, was always going back to you know, to my life back in the day.
And recreating personal moments. That's excellent. Like, in, you know, when watching the film, one can really feel a personal connection of all the cast and crew in the story. I have a question now for the producer, a funding question, because funding is so important for independent cinema, for all cinema, especially independent cinema. The film opens with a thank you to some of the funders. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so primarily we had Impacted, who are our primary funders for the film. This is the third film that, I mean, Quizzical Pictures, of which I'm a producer, working at Quizzical Pictures. This is the third film that we did for Impacted. They were previously known as Discovery Learning Alliance. So we did Inside Story, and we did the Lucky Specials, and Shaina is the third film. I want to say a trilogy, but it's not a trilogy, but it's the third of the films that were done for Impacted, as we now know it. And the other funder was the Department of Trade and Industry of South Africa. And what it is, it's an incentive package from the government of South Africa to try and entice international filmmakers to make film in South Africa.
Right.
Film, I think, in my opinion, at very least, is such an easy way of alleviating unemployment. I mean, one of the major challenges that we face in this country is unemployment, amongst others. And because of, in certain instances, the low skills base that film allows for people to be able to enter the job market, it's certainly a weapon for us to alleviate the unemployment crisis that we are currently facing as a country. And so the Department of Trade and Industry has incentivized international filmmakers to come to South Africa to exploit the climate, the infrastructure, physical infrastructure, as well as the talent that we have. I think we have a lot of talent on screen and behind the scenes. And those are the people who the DTI has actually helped to get employed on a film like Shaina. Yeah.
I imagine, you know, wherever you shot, the village where you shot this, I imagine just hiring extras and, you know, crew and et cetera, that would have been a great economic boost to that community.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, let alone the crew itself. So yes, absolutely. With regard to the extras that we had on set, the caterers that we had on set,
Right.
security personnel that we had on set. I mean, making film is it's not just about, I mean, the on-screen talent. There are, for if you have 10 people on screen, there are 50 people at very least behind the scenes who are making what you see possible. So we had a lot of people behind the scenes who made Shaina possible.
Excellent. And I think that's something that a lot of people who have not worked in film understand, the enormous effort, the crewing up, what that involves. And I think we see more and more in the US, and the jobs those create and the careers, those allow people to start having these crew jobs. So here in the States, there's a huge push, I'm sure everywhere internationally, but to mandate that crews be 50% at least female, and here in people of color and female, to make sure that there's some equity in the crew process and the economic benefits of working in this industry. And I hear that this film, Shaina, that Beauty, you decided to crew up with a mostly female crew. Can you tell us about, making sure this was a heavily female crew?
It was important to crew up women. We had, the lead characters, Wilmah, was Shaina, and I would say all the lead roles were female. So it was important to have, that support around the young girls. And I think one of the important things as well was that it was crucial to work with people that we all got along with, and a lot of them are women. So it was important to do that.
It's really important to have a supportive crew. I mean, spending long hours, it's very important. And I'm glad to hear that you've created a standard that most American films cannot even boast, to have a crew of that 50% female. That's an incredible story, and it really matches the actual narrative of the film.
I think we're also lucky, we're also fortunate that the producers, who are also mostly female, of course, including Siphiwe, but all the producers were committed to our success. So they supported, myself as a first-time feature film director, and also, a brand new cast in the lead who are also, all female.
Sure.
And so I think that kind of support is crucial in the film industry, to support, women like that.
It's absolutely crucial. And I think that, there's so much talk about it, but we don't always see it in action. But you put it in action. You and your producers, you put it in action. So bravo to you for that. Moving on to the actual narrative about women and bonding. Wilmah, what did you think when you read the script?
I thought it was an amazing script, to be honest. It was, one thing for me that scared me were the very violent scenes that Shaina was involved in, but it's the reality of the girls nowadays, of especially my peers, my age mates. And I thought that was an important story to tell. And I was incredibly happy to be involved in such a story. When I first auditioned, I didn't really grasp, what the story was about. But when I really read the script, because I think I read it 3 times over, and by the time I was done, I think I had just the idea of, the emotions that I would have to tap into in order to really tell the story. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very in-depth story. I mean, we see her, she has such an arc, and there's so many just deep moments and terrifying moments and tragic moments. So, I mean, this was your first feature.
Yeah.
I imagine that's a daunting task. I mean, how did you, actors, they do their prep. How did you prep?
I personally,
these scenes?
I became Shaina for that entire, we shot for 29 days. I became Shaina. I had most of the people around me were calling me Shaina.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I remember on my most emotional, on my most emotional days, I stayed emotional, because I haven't really gotten to the part of me as an actress where I can tap into my emotions like that and, quickly come out. So on days where I had very heavy scenes, I was like that from morning. If I didn't want someone to talk to me, I didn't speak to anyone, so I could stay in that. So I just became my entire character for that 29 days.
That's incredible. And so at the end of when you wrapped, how did you come out of it?
First of all, I was sad because we had an incredible cast and crew. I was friends with everybody. I loved everybody. So to leave was very sad for me. But besides that, I think I was just excited for people to see the film,
Right.
I think I came out of it just sort of seeing the world differently, because I think it reminded me of, the consequences of what we do as young people, which we tend to forget sometimes, and the story just reminded me of all of that, because it's not fiction, it's all reality.
Yeah, there are a lot of tough scenes in this film. I mean, very tough. And I wonder, there's a lot of talk these days of intimacy coordinators, additional personnel hired to make sure that in usually scenes of sex, but also violence, and also in the case of this one, a mixture of the two. The harrowing scene. Did you use an intimacy coordinator?
No.
To make sure that, I know that's it's a luxury, but I wonder, there's a lot, because as an actor, you're very vulnerable in this position. But I think that if you have a less supportive crew, there's a need to have an intimacy coordinator, because there's, it's just more raw. But perhaps, having this bond with the other women on the set, with the cast and with Beauty, that you were able, to perform these scenes without as much harm to your psyche. That's my concern, that you were able to come out and not feel as traumatized as, say, Shaina was.
Not really. I was very scared to go into the scene, but I had a lot of, it's like I said, how there were a lot of women on set that acted as mothers, as sisters, as friends, and they were just very supportive. Even Siphiwe, I remember when I came out of the rape scene, which was the most difficult to me out of all of them. He just gave me a hug and said, "You did great,"
Mm-hmm.
So it was very difficult to go into it. But at the end of the day, I felt like what I was doing was important, and I was supported, and I felt comfortable with being so vulnerable in that moment, because you have to be vulnerable in scenes like that,
Absolutely. And it shows in the performance. That was a very tough scene, but it's a very important scene, because you're right, it happens to a lot of women, and it's, we have to be honest about that. Beauty, I'd like, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, no, just to add to what Wilmah is saying. The landscape of South African filmmaking is that intimacy coordinators are a very new thing. In hindsight, I would have loved to have had an intimacy coordinator, but I think what informed actually having a predominantly female crew on this kind of production was exactly the content. We knew that we were dealing with sensitive matter, and we wanted to make sure that the actors feel supported, feel protected as well. So I think that's what informed a lot of the decision making around who we get. Having Beauty as a director, was a blessing in disguise. I mean, she was phenomenal, having an intellectual, psychological understanding of the entire story, and a subliminal understanding of the story as well was phenomenal. And to be able to translate that onto set really, I think, was a great support for the actors. And to that end, I mean, I've only recently worked with an intimacy coordinator, and I think there are only 3 in the country. And so, I mean, obviously, it's a movement that we definitely support, and I'm grateful that suddenly there is this movement where we are becoming more sensitive to the kind of content that is written, because I think sitting in a story room, writers and creatives come up with the most absurd and phenomenal ideas. And we all get excited. Oh yeah, fantastic. Let's have a rape scene. Yes, let's have violence. Yes, let's have nudity. But just the sensitivity around how we execute that is something that is only now, certainly in South Africa, coming to the fore. And as I say, we have a handful of intimacy coordinators. And in this instance, yes, we didn't have, but the predominantly female cast, crew, and key creative personnel are the support structure that compensated for the lack of an intimacy coordinator.
Right, sort of a surrogate intimacy community, which is basically the what the film is about itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that. Surrogate intimacy community. I love that.
Can I trademark that?
Yeah, no, I've taken it. It's stolen. It's gone.
Okay, I get the US rights. You can have this South African.
I'll have the South African rights. Yeah, no, fantastic.
Deal. Great. So, Beauty, I've noticed in your bio, you worked in documentary before and also in television. What lessons and skills you think, having worked in documentary, added to your feature direction in your debut as a feature director?
I worked in documentary, but I think I find documentary, I don't know if you can see me, sorry, my light is switched off.
We see you
and I'm trying to
clearly.
switch it back on, but it's playing up. Can you still see me?
Yeah, we
Clearly.
see you.
We can see you, but the
See
light.
you.
Okay, because my light is switched off, so I was trying to fix it. But anyway, I was saying, so my experience, I find that it's different. It's very different working, in documentaries compared to feature films. I think it's very different. I find that documentary making is very tough. It's a lot of research and a lot of, it's a different way of communicating with the different people. It's very, very different from fiction. I think fiction is when you direct fiction and you speak to the actors, it's all very different because it's not real, even though you have to pretend as if it's real, whereas documentary is real. So what you're trying to get is everything that's real out of your documentary characters. So I wouldn't say that added to my experience as a feature film director, but what I can say is that I worked for many years, maybe 20 years now in the industry. I started working as a production assistant. I worked a lot in production. And then for the longest, I've been working as a script supervisor continuity. So that gave me a chance to work closely with a lot of different directors, different types of directors. So I've learned a lot from, different directors, the different styles in directing and all of that, and how they communicate with the actors. So I think that's what helped me the most.
That's great. I mean, you have a long resume and lots of experience. And I'm sure that, that came into play. It's not easy to direct a film. I think people might underestimate how easy or how difficult it is to direct a film. And it takes, you know, a massive set of skills and professionalism and tenacity to do that. So kudos to you for making your first feature. I have a producer question. Can you identify any moments, which the most sort of challenging, difficult moments as a producer, snafus in production, and how you sort of circumvented those problems?
I'm not 100% sure I got your question.
Oh.
You said, yeah, can I identify any moments that what?
The most challenging moments of the production?
Whew,
Logistical, creative, legal, just a few of those. And how you, I mean, they're always, I mean, that's part of the business, right? The part of the process.
Primarily, we filming a Zimbabwean film in South Africa, so it was finding the location. In many ways, I think having Beauty as a director who's grown up in Zimbabwe really helped in facilitating and lubricating that decision making. But for the most part, I think on a day-to-day dealing with weather, right? When there are days we got to set and it would be phenomenally hot. We'd be dealing with like 35, 37 degree. Okay, I know it's you guys deal with Fahrenheit. We deal with Celsius. So I can't translate exactly what that is.
That's 9,900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it was phenomenally hot. And we'd be filming and then all of a sudden the rain clouds gather.
Oh,
and it happened consecutively for about 8 days of filming. And every day when we wrap, there'd be a huge thunderstorm. And it's about rushing. Okay, guys, we need to make sure that we've gotten all the scenes and we need to make sure that the light matches what story we're trying to tell. So you'd be there on set and you appreciate the creative process, and you're holding Beauty and you're like, Alice, how quickly can you film this? And Beauty is obviously invested in, I don't care how quickly you want me to film it, it just needs to be beautiful. I need to get the correct performances. I need to get that. And there'd be a conflict of interest, as it were, between what the logistics are and what the creative is. And we fortunately managed to get everything in time. But there was the finale, scene. Really? I don't know if this is a moment that people, if people haven't watched the film, please now just mute for the next 10 seconds. The moment at the end where Shaina or Wilmah, what's your boyfriend's name?
Tino. Well, in the movie it's so.
In the movie, yeah?
So.
Well, I know it's Tino, the actor, but what's the character name?
So it was so.
Shaina and so the moment that they kiss, that moment with that, we had to build. I mean, the grips department had to build a whole scaffold where the camera rotates around them.
Oh, I see.
And the first time we did that, rain clouds were gathering.
Oh no.
And there was a massive thunderstorm on the way. And I was saying, guys, we cannot not film this. But, and that was just the producer and me speaking. But at some point, I came to realize that we actually cannot film this. We cannot, the weather's not good enough. We need clear sky. We've shot everything else in brilliant sunlight.
Right.
So we needed to drop that scene. And what it meant for us was, we were filming most of Shaina in a different province. So we went back to Gauteng to film some scenes, and a week later had to go back to film the kiss.
I see.
You know, so those kind of logistics are the things that were difficult, but honestly, what made it easy was working with a cast that was committed to the story. I think we had a 99% Zimbabwean cast who were so committed, who were so passionate, who were so anxious to be telling this kind of a story, that regardless of the challenges we faced, the cast were the first people to say, listen, we want to make this work, tell us how.
Right.
So that really it did, I mean, despite all the challenges we may have faced, that really did make it easy.
Well, that's excellent, but I imagine it must have really impacted your production costs, you know, of the going over a schedule with the rain and the weather. I noticed that at certain scenes, I said to myself, wow, it looks really hot. Because so many of the irrigation scene, when she's building the irrigation, I'm like,
Yeah.
it felt really hot. And you know, the film, a significant
Oh, it
portion
was
are
really
exteriors. Sorry, Wilmah?
It was very hot.
I could tell.
I can't even explain how hot it was.
Yeah,
It was
I felt the heat coming through. Yeah, you feel it. You
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it. Oh my goodness. That's and it's. I mean, the film is so many. It's at least 40% exterior shots. So a lot of exterior shots.
A lot. We had thankfully, we had a director who had a very clear vision. I mean, I didn't necessarily agree with all of the choices that she wanted to make, and we butted heads a lot. And I was arguing for the logistics, and I was arguing for the budget, and Beauty was saying it's a Zimbabwean film. So somehow we needed to find common ground,
Right.
and find, I mean, within South Africa, find a space within which to replicate Zimbabwe. It is a humid place, and so finding Majakaneng and the house that we found, that was Shaina's home, as well as the home that we found for Tadio Faro's character, and all of that was a lot of Beauty's influence, saying this is exactly this kind of location in Zimbabwe, and we managed to make it work. And fortunately, despite all the daily rain, I mean, I rode most of my time, I think, with Beauty driving back to our accommodation, and I mean, we could barely see where we were driving, but we would drive anyway. And in the world of the story, it is so perfect for us to have found those locations, and the weather played ball on the days that it did, and when it didn't, I mean, we had anticipated it, so overruns were not major. Yes, it did. There were some overruns, but not as much as I thought they would be.
Excellent. Well, I guess that's the sign of a good producer. You know how to schedule and stay on top of it. Yeah. So again, that's a great point. The collaborative process. Film is so collaborative, you know, every step of the way. I mean, except the writing of it. You know, it's a writer, you know, in their thoughts and in front of their computer. I'm, you know, guilty of that. But once it leaves a writer's hands, you know, that's where the collaboration starts. And everyone, you know, wants to do it their way. The director has their idea, producer, and as you mentioned, this always this balance of creative versus logistical. So Beauty, if you can talk to me a little bit about how you navigate as a director, how you navigate those issues, balancing creative, balancing logistics. How do you get that great shot, even if you're going to go over budget or over schedule, and vice versa? How do you approach that as a director?
I think that's always a tough one, and that's where your leadership skills come in, because you have to let go of, you know, of some of the storytelling, or you have to come up with another way to tell that story without compromising the budget, or, you know, time as well, because time is money when you're shooting.
Right.
So so for me, I think it's understanding your story very well is very crucial. You have to understand your story. And I think by doing so, that helps you come up with plan B. So I think it's about understanding your story. If you understand it, then it's easy to come up with plan B. So a lot of the time when it rained, I quickly had to come up with a way to tell that particular scene or that particular story in a different way, but still, you know, but still have our film, you know, but still not lose the essence of the story. So I think my take on it is really understanding what your story is and how else to tell that story if there's some sort of compromise.
Well, that's an excellent answer. I think that that's so crucial to independent film, is staying true to the story, staying true to the voice of the director. I think a lot of people will benefit from hearing that, who are deep in the trenches, trying to balance these very issues right now and whatever they're working on. I mean, that's, you know, the sort of the guiding post for so many people. You know, we're close to wrapping up, but in the final round of questions, I would like to talk about African film. I'm hearing from a lot of players that Africa is the next market for streaming, for investment. And speaking to African nationals who are working here in the US, trying to, you know, create an infrastructure, as you mentioned, for filmmaking in Africa, as well as streaming services. And all we need is the funding for that, right? Can you talk to me about your experience or what you've heard and how you're looking forward to this new, you know, this new phase of African filmmaking?
Do you ask
I'll
me?
ask the producer and I'll ask the producer and you.
Okay,
okay.
So I think at the moment, sorry, Spirit. So I think you know, it's exciting to know that we're collaborating, and I've already started seeing you know, producers from overseas coming to South Africa or to Africa to make, you know, films in Africa. I just finished one now, which is sort of international, but I can't say much about that feature film. So it was very interesting to see, you know, working with some international actors as well as local actors, and just, you know, collaborating in, you know, in storytelling. So I think that's where we're going. I think that in future there's going to be a lot of collaboration, you know, between Africa and, you know, overseas. There's a lot of that already happening, and I think there is going to be a lot of that happening. And I think that's I think the industry is growing like that, and it's exciting. It's exciting.
That's very exciting. And producer,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're deep in the trenches of talking to streamers and other foreign investors.
Yeah, I mean, just to say, yes, absolutely. Africa is the next frontier. A lot of stories are yet to be told from Africa. And we have such an intense magnitude of story to tell. And we have a pool of talent, I dare say, second to none. I've just completed an international now since doing Shaina, which has again blown me away. I mean, I always believe that your most recent work must be your best work, and I'm happy to say that Shaina was my best work. And then up until now, I was like, okay, well, yeah, now what I've just done is my best work, and with phenomenal talent on screen, behind the scenes. And I really do believe that Africa is the next frontier. The stories that we have in Africa are untapped. So we've got untapped story, we've got untapped talent, and it's no wonder that internationals are coming here, because the next Game of Thrones is going to come from Africa. We told the story of Shaka Zulu, but people think that's all that Africa is
That's the only
about.
one.
That is really a drop in the ocean. We've got so much more to tell than just the story of Shaka Zulu. And South Africa is not the only place in Africa to tell stories. There are stories in all of the 52 nations that make up Africa. So I'm looking forward to the next 10 years, because I really do believe that our borders are diminishing. There's a lot more inter-story creativity that's happening, and I think there's intercontinental, let alone African stories that blend between the countries. So I'm looking forward to that over the next 10 to 15 years.
That is excellent. You are well prepared. I mean, if I had a fund, I would invest in all of you for a first look deal. When I get a few million, I'll do it.
No, absolutely. Please do. I mean, look, a few million will be welcome, and it will be well invested. And I think it will, you'll get return on investment. The ROI on African stories is perhaps higher than any other ROI on the planet.
I'm sure. Well, that was excellent. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Beauty. Thank you, Wilmah. Thank you, Siphiwe. Thank you for this film. Thank you for sending it into the Portland Film Fest. And thank you for your very thoughtful answers. We look forward to seeing how the film progresses in the festival. To audience members, don't forget to vote for this film. I'm sure you'll love it. Please vote for it. And thank you to all the viewers for supporting the Portland Film Festival, supporting independent cinema. And we invite you to go to the Portland Film Fest lobby to check out other films, other Q&As, buy merch, and purchase more tickets. And on that, I thank you and bid you good night.
Thank
Good night, all
you
of you.
very much.
Thank you so
Have a good day
Thank
further.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you
and
very
I'm
much,
looking forward to
Wilmah.
your next
Thank you, Beauty.
projects.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry?
look forward to it. I was
Absolutely.
just thanking Wilmah and Beauty, and yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely look forward to our next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck in the festival. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.